Hey, everybody out there in digital media land. It's Richard Klusmeyer with RB Community here it's a very pleasant afternoon. This morning was quite wet, but it was nice. It got it all out of the way in the beginning, and hopefully we've got some dryness ahead for us, and we just have a pleasant evening. So first off, happy Chinese New Year's, or many blessings, depending on whether or not you celebrate. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit later, because a lot of you know that I actually grew up, spent the first 15 years of my life in Asia, and Chinese New Year was a very, very big holiday. I know it's kind of taken off here in the United States. A lot of people celebrate it, but believe it or not, I actually got 2 entire weeks off of school growing up for Chinese New Year. So it was pretty awesome. But we're going to talk a little bit about it from a Christian perspective, as well as what we believe and how that interacts with what people celebrate at Chinese New Year. Hey, Aiden, good to see you. Good to see you, Amy, as well. So once again, I can see that there's a handful of people watching. I don't know that you're out there watching unless you chime in on the chat. Other than that, I just see your number. So feel free to say hi in the chat box. If you are watching on your home TV, I know you're not able to interact via chat that way. So feel free to go ahead and you can send me text messages if you want. I know our game will involve some communication on your part. So the more people we have communicating and competing, the more fun we will have. So a couple things I've got just as as people start logging on, I'm going to share a little bit about Chinese New Year. I've also got the pink lights in the background for Valentine's Day. So Sunday is Valentine's Day. So happy Valentine's Day to everybody out there. Mom, I see that you are there. So happy Valentine's Day, Mom. We've got Jazz here chilling out. I don't know. I guess he's kind of tall today up in the tree for you to be able to see him. See if I can't get him to attack my finger. You can see his head, but Jazz is going to hang out with us for as long as he's willing to sit up there on the screen, or he might do his usual thing where he comes down onto the screen and tries to hang up the YouTube live session. So we're going to go ahead and just keep chatting a little bit about kind of some of the traditions that we have at Chinese New Year. So one of the big ones that I don't know if I actually, so there's a couple things. I forgot to grab one. I actually have one upstairs, but it's a little red envelope. So if you're not familiar with the little red envelopes, it's every kid's dream at Chinese New Year is the little red envelopes that they call ongbao. And ongbao, or red packet, is a little thing that the adults give out to all the kids. So adults show up and they've just got all of these little red envelopes, and they hand them out, and they've always got a few dollars in them. So you're always excited and you get all your envelopes. So it's exciting because it's a generous gift. People are just giving away money at Chinese New Year when you're a little kid. But you don't really it's part of the tradition, but growing up as a kid, you don't always understand why people do things. You're just like, oh, it's Chinese New Year, I'm getting money. But the reality of it is Chinese New Year, alongside the Chinese superstitions or the Chinese beliefs, is that Chinese New Year is the time where you're kind of giving away all of your debts. So everything that you're in debt to. So just in case you've ever done anything wrong, you're giving away money so that you can have all of your bases covered. I think they just give it to kids as a way of being fun, but it's a part of taking care of your debts is a big part of Chinese New Year. But then also we're going to talk about it from a Christian perspective later. Also, reconciliation is a big part of Chinese New Year. Of, as Christians at communion, we always talk about if there's anyone that might have anything against you, or you might have some conflict with somebody, now is the time to go and seek reconciliation with that person, right? So we do that as Christians at communion, right? So they always say, if any of you have any transgressions with somebody, if anybody has any issues with a friend, before communion is a time for us to go and seek that reconciliation. So Chinese New Year is also a time of, hey, if you have a family member that you're at conflict with, if you have a friend that is at odds with you, now is a good time for you to make sure you take care of those things. So make sure that you if you have anything at Chinese New Year, if you have any friends that you're in conflict with, be sure to go ahead and make sure that you ask and seek forgiveness for anything you may have done wrong. It's just, I mean, that's a good practice. And it's one of those things. Sometimes people say, well, if I'm a Christian, can I celebrate Chinese New Year? And yes, there are some things as Christians at Chinese New Year that we shouldn't do. Like we shouldn't worship ancestors. We shouldn't burn incense to ancestors. But it is also okay to celebrate your ancestry and celebrate those that came before us and remember. So that's okay. But it's regardless of the superstitious belief behind it, it's always good for us to seek reconciliation in broken relationships. And that's what Jesus was all about. Is Jesus came to reconcile us to God. So it's a good practice for us to also practice reconciliation with others. So another interesting tradition is oranges. Oranges are a huge thing around Chinese New Year, and I'm not sure what the origin of it was, but it is tradition to always show up bearing oranges to Chinese New Year. So a lot of times they're not these massive ones. Carolyn and I have an orange tree, so we just picked these off of our orange tree just outside. But you always bring oranges, but you never bring an odd number of oranges. You never ever just show up with an orange or show up with 3 oranges. So I came up with in Chinese superstitions, 8 is a lucky number. So, and 2 is a lucky number. So if you only have a couple oranges, you bring 2. But if you can manage, bring 8, because that's the most lucky. And it's an offering of prosperity. So you show up with oranges and you're saying, hey, I hope you have a very prosperous new year. We've got a red flower here. I've got a red shirt on, and you guys may see a lot of red around Chinese New Year, and you might just think, oh, maybe it's because the Chinese flag is red, or like, why is this? But the reality of it is, the story behind Chinese New Year is the origin story was that there was a beast or a monster. The beast's name was Nian, and it was either from the sea or from the mountains, depending on what region you're from. The origin story is a little different, but it's afraid of a couple things. It's afraid of loud noises, and it's afraid of the color red. So Chinese New Year, the reason you see everyone wearing red, the reason you see all the red lanterns, right? That's a very traditional Chinese New Year thing, is the red lantern, is because the red lights, they're trying to scare off the monster, and it's also afraid of loud noises. So if you're a kid, the cool thing about that is you get to light off all these little firecrackers. Not as much fireworks, but they're more like they look like it's like a strand of little tiny, they look like miniature pieces of dynamite, but they just go like bang sticks. I don't know. But you get to make those go off. So that's one of the other traditions around Chinese New Year. So that's just a couple things to share with you guys as we start off. So once again, I can see there's a couple more people watching than I have in the chat. So feel free to chime in if you are watching. If not, we'll go ahead and get started. So first off, we're going to start off with some not Chinese New Year trivia, but first off, I guess I'll show happy Chinese New Year. Hey, that slide looks pretty good with the pink background on the red screen. But happy Chinese New Year to everybody. The first day is actually today. So if I was a student, I'd be looking forward to the next 2 weeks off of school, but no such luck for us here this year. But we're going to play a game involving the movie. They actually came out with a new live action one, Mulan, right? So Mulan is a story that's based off of an actual legend. So for those of you, kind of like I shared about the story of Nian, the beast of Chinese New Year, Hua Mulan is actually an actual legend that you would have heard growing up. So we're going to go, so they made it into a Disney movie. So most of us in the United States are familiar with Mulan because we saw the movie. But as you guys know, not necessarily everything you see in movies is true, but there is a legend around Mulan, and there's been a book written about it. from the oral tradition. So we're going to talk about some of it's not multiple choice. It is a one or the other. So you have a 50% chance of getting it right. So go ahead and you can put your guesses in, or if you don't want to put your guesses in, if you're afraid of being wrong, no worries there. We'll just go ahead and share the answer with you. So we're going to go through some of these of the actual story. And I know sometimes we think everything we see in movies is true. So sometimes you might see something that contradicts what you think is correct because of what you heard in the movie. And it makes me think of, I was a huge Three Stooges fan growing up. And I remember one of the premises before the movie where they say all characters in this movie are fictitious, and any representation that might portray someone is completely unfortunate. So not necessarily everything you saw in Mulan was actually the way the story goes in the legend. So here, I don't know if you guys are able to read that through your screen, but I'm going to go ahead and I'll read it for you guys out loud so you know what it says. It says, according to legend, how many years did Hua Mulan serve in the military? Was it for 3 years? Or was it for 12 years? And I guess if you're completely unfamiliar with the story, I'll give you a little bit of a premise. Mulan, the legend of Mulan is that she was a woman who secretly served in the military for her family. And historically, the eldest son of a family would represent the family in a military service. So basically the legend of Mulan is just like in the movie, is that she disguised herself, didn't let people know that she was a woman, and she entered into the military to serve on behalf of her family. So the question is, how long did Mulan serve? Was it 3 years or was it 12 years? Get your guesses in. Once again, if you're watching on TV, feel free to go ahead and send me your answers via text. So we've got a couple threes. We got a 12. The answer is 12. So congratulations, Marty. You got that one right. So according to the legend, so once again, we don't actually know Aiden, for all we know, it could have been 3 years. But according to the legend, the story that parents tell through oral tradition, the legend of Mulan, was that she served in the military for 12 years, which is a long time to keep yourself disguised. So pretty impressive job if that was true as a 12-year reign. So here we go. The next one. Mulan was offered rewards for her service. Did she accept them? So in the legend of Mulan, she was offered a reward for everything that she had done after everything came to light. And do you guys think she accepted, or do you think she rejected the reward? So good job, guys. You guys got that correct. Oh, Aiden missed it out a little bit, not quite in there, but so no, Mulan did not accept the reward that she was offered in the end for her service, because she didn't feel like she deserved a reward, because she was just doing her duty. So she didn't want to be recognized for what she did only because she was a woman, but she felt like she was doing what should have been done to begin with, but she wasn't allowed to do because she was a woman. So next question. Was Mulan's family Hua or Zhu? So what was Mulan's family name? Was it Hua or was it Zhu? So this one might be a little deceptive. So I wouldn't blame yourself if you get this one wrong, but it's an interesting perspective. Do you think it was Hua or do you think it was Zhu? So we got Hua. Okay, the answer is Zhu. I know, right? That makes absolutely no sense, because the story is Hua Mulan as we know it, but her family in the story was actually Zhu. So doesn't make much sense that they would call it Hua Mulan, does it? But like we said, just because it's true in the movie does not mean that it is the way the story or the legend goes. A couple more. Okay, here we go. Did Mulan have any brothers? Right. So the story of Mulan is she was serving because there weren't any boys in the family in order to serve in the military. So she was serving on behalf. In the movie, I think she has three sisters. I think is how it is in the movie. There's three sisters, but in the legend, does she have any brothers? So what do you guys think? Yes or no? We've got a no from Marty. Feel free to put in your answers. Once again, I see we have a couple other people watching. So if you're watching, feel free to engage in the chat. If you're unable to engage in the chat, no worries, but you can play along with us. Or if you're playing on the computer, or if you're watching on a TV and you can't engage in the text, feel free to send me texts. But we've got some no's. We've got Amy with a yes. Let's see, and our answer is yes. Mulan had a younger brother, one younger brother. According to legend, Mulan had one younger brother, but basically in the story, he was too young to serve in the military. So he was kind of, even still, he would have been considered at the time not obligated to serve because of his youth. So that's the way the story goes. We got a couple more. So you guys are doing a great job, by the way. So this is a question about the origin story of how it was told and the first time it was written for us. It says, was Mulan's legend told in the Ballad of Mulan or Mulan's sonnet? So basically this is saying, like, is the movie, right? We have the movie Mulan from Disney. Where did they get their information from? Was this from a story that was called The Ballad of Mulan, or was it called Mulan's Sonnet? What do you think? You don't have to type in the whole thing, but you can either just type in sonnet or you can type in ballad if you'd like. So go ahead and get your answers in. I'm going to take a quick drink of water. I recognize that a lot of this is information you might not have any clue about, so feel free to just throw in a guess. There's right answers, there's wrong answers, but there's no consequences. So, no fear of getting it wrong. The answer is a ballad. So the Ballad of Mulan. So if you were to look up the Ballad of Mulan and where a lot of this history is based off of, you can look at the Ballad of Mulan and hear the story that Disney took a lot of their information from. Okay. How many movies have been made about Mulan? Okay, so this is an interesting one because most people would have guessed two, right? Most people would have guessed two. They would have said only two movies have been made, the Disney movie and then the Disney live action movie. But your options are 5 or 12. So obviously the answer is not 2 like one might suspect, because we've got Aiden saying 5. We've got Marty saying 12. Let's see what we are at here. Go ahead and you can put your answers in if you would like. And the answer is 12. Okay, so this lists all of the movies for you. So Hua Mulan Joins the Army was made in 1927. Mulan Joins the Army in 1928. Mulan Joins the Army again 10 years later in 1939. Lady General Hua Mulan, 1964. Saga of Mulan, 1994. The Secret of Mulan, 1998. Mulan, that you are familiar with, is Disney, 1998. Mulan 2, which was another Mulan movie. I guess I should have listed that one as well. In 2004, Mulan again, and then a Mulan Disney 2020, and then another Matchless Mulan in 2020, and then another movie by Sony in 2020. So, how do you like that? 12 different movies have been made about Mulan, and there's only a handful that we're familiar with, and they go as far back as 1927. So it is much more popular than we may have originally thought, the legend of Mulan. So here we go. This is a good question. What century was the Ballad of Mulan written? Was it the 6th century or the 8th century? So was it the 6th century or the 8th century that the story was actually written? So it was an oral story that was told, where families would tell the story of Mulan to kids. It was a common children's story that they would tell to communicate morals and communicate service and communicate the value of family, right? So, but when was it actually written down and it became not just an oral history, but a written history or a ballad? So, was it the 6th century or the 8th century? 6th century. So the story was from the 6th century, but it was prior to the 6th century as well. It was a oral history. So for those of you that guessed 6, way to go. For those of you that guessed 8, no consequences. So not a big deal. Okay, we got 2 more questions. Here we go. According to legend, was Mulan recruited to fight against the Roran invaders or the Huns? So according to legend, was Mulan recruited to fight against the Roran invaders or the Huns? So you perhaps know the answer from the movie, but the question is according to legend. So in the legend of Mulan, not in the movie of Mulan, was she recruited to fight against the Rorans or the Huns? I always heard it as the Ronins. So interesting one. I would have guessed Huns based off of the movie because it's definitely the song, "Let's get down to business to defeat the Hun." But the answer is actually the Rorans. So in the actual legend, once again, it's kind of confusing because we've got the story that we've been told through the movie made by Disney, Mulan, and then the actual story that's been passed down through generation. And not always the same. Disney has a tendency to change things to best suit their needs, probably because the syllables in Rorans isn't quite as rhythmic when it comes to singing songs. Okay, in the Ballad of Mulan, was Mulan's gender discovered before she left the army or after she returned home? So in the legend, did they discover that Mulan was a woman while she was still in the army, or did they discover that she had been serving in the army afterwards when she went home? So was it before she left the army or after she returned home? Because you guys all know what happened in the movie. They're in the middle of battle and it gets discovered that she's a woman. And then there's the conflict of, well, she was a good soldier, so why are we holding that against her now that we know that she's a woman? That conflict there. So, but in the Ballad of Mulan, so the original written story, was it discovered that Mulan was a woman before she left the army or after she returned home? The answer is after, right? So she'd been missing. They didn't know where she was, and she returned home only to have her family discover that she'd been fighting in the military. So news to them. So once again, we're realizing a lot of what we learned from the Disney story is not necessarily accurate, but that doesn't mean that it was necessarily intentionally false, but is just written as part of a children's narrative. And once again, it's a legend, and lots of bits of legend aren't necessarily accurate either. So here we go. Last question. Mulan is a beloved story, so much so that a crater, the Hua Mulan, is named after her. Which planet is the crater on? Okay, so basically the premise of this is that a crater on another planet was discovered, and they decided, because this was such a popular story, such a popular legend, that they wanted to name something significant after her. So when a crater was discovered, they decided to name one after her. So what do you guys think? Is it Venus or Mars that the crater was discovered on? Mars. We got a Mars. Fun fact, Mars is one of my favorite candy bars. So if you've never had a Mars bar, it's kind of like a Snickers bar without the peanut. The answer is Venus. So good job, guys. Once again, I said there was no consequences to getting any of those answers wrong. So not a big deal. Not a big deal. Jazz is loving how relaxed everybody is. Pretty cute up there. He's been sleeping a lot lately. He's a teenager. So that was it for our Hua Mulan activity. But next, we also have another holiday coming up, which is Valentine's Day. So Valentine's Day is on Friday. So I guess you might know this, but Chinese New Year is based off of the lunar calendar, right? So it's based off the lunar calendar. So Chinese New Year's, the date changes throughout the course of the year, whereas Valentine's Day is the same day every year. So it isn't necessarily true that Valentine's Day and Chinese New Year are right next to each other. So just a fun little fact is that Chinese New Year's date moves, kind of like Easter. You know, Easter is the very first Sunday of April this year, but sometimes it can be all the way at the end and sometimes it can be in March. So Easter and Chinese New Year both move dates depending on what year it is, unlike Valentine's Day and Christmas, which are always on the same day every year. So that's the difference between I don't want to say it's the solar calendar, but the calendar that we use to keep track of dates is always going to be the same for Christmas and for Valentine's Day. And then for Easter and for Chinese New Year, the dates move and change throughout the course of the year. Okay. So we played this game the other day, and hopefully you don't struggle to play it too much by not being able to see the screen very well. I'll slide this guy over so you have a better view. How about I move the camera forward a little bit, give you a bigger view of the screen. There we go. Okay, so the way this game is going to work is we have a picture on the left and a picture on the right, and we're going to put it up on the screen bigger, so it'll take a full on one side and full on the other. And you need to look onto the screen, and your goal is to try to be the first one to find the correct duplicate option. So there's going to be one that is on both sides of the screen. You got to type in what it is as best you can tell. So like if the balloon was on this side and this side, you'd type in balloon. First person to enter balloon would be the winner. We played this game a couple weeks ago, but it was just with random things. This is a Valentine's Day themed one, so everything is Valentine's Day themed. So if you're ready, get ready to input your answers as quickly as possible. So once again, it says we've got 6 people watching, but I don't see all 6 of you guys in the chat. So feel free to, if you can engage in chat, try to send me a text. You might not have much of a chance because I'm guessing there's a bit of a delay via text as opposed to on the video. But hopefully we might be able to get some winners other than people watching on the computer. So here we go. First question. Ready, set, go. You're looking for the duplicate image. Duplicate image. Duplicate image. Hey, good job, Amy. Amy got that one in first submission. It was the ring. Okay, so now you guys got that. So let's go ahead and we'll go to the next question. Go to the next question and we'll see if somebody can dethrone Amy from her championship spot. Here we go. Once again, if you're watching on your TV and you can't play, feel free to try to text me in time. Watching the screen to see who answers correctly first. Donut. Well done, Aiden. Yes, it is the donut. I was gonna laugh because I saw a ring from last round and I was like, that's not a ring, that's a donut. And I was like, oh, that was from last round. So good job, Aiden. Good job, Aiden. So next one. We've got one for Aiden, one for Amy. Next question. Here we go. Ready, set, go. This game is always harder than I feel like it should be. I feel like there's only like 6 things that should be really easy to figure out what it is. But it always seems to be a little more difficult. Bow and arrow. Yes. Well done, Aiden. It is the bow and arrow. One down here, one down there. That's also a pretty small image, so I'm glad you guys are able to tell what was what. So here we go. Next one. Ready, set, go. Which one is the duplicate on this one? This one might be difficult for you guys to see. I don't know. Once again, I'm only seeing a little smaller version of the screen, so I'm not. Yeah, I'm gonna. That is a valid answer, Aiden. But I'm gonna go ahead and give that one to Marty because it says "Be Mine" on it, and heart isn't quite descriptive enough. Yes, there is a little heart, but that has a heart, that has a heart, that is a heart, and they're not necessarily identical. So we're going to go ahead and give that one to Marty with the "Be Mine" question. Okay. Next one. Here we go. Showing the "Be Mine" questions. Next one. Here we go. My phone is getting some delays. So, that was a quick one, Aiden. And it was very well done. So I know the lips on that one were kind of small, but you're able to see it. Well done, Aiden. We've got, I think, 3 more rounds. So here we go. Or 4 more rounds. But you guys are doing a great job. Next one. This one might be a little difficult because you got to give a specific description. Yeah, good job, Aiden. Aiden and Amy got that one in almost exactly the same time, but we're going to give that one to Aiden with the heart box. And Amy just sent me a picture of her cat. Dharma is also relaxed. So these are the cats of Restless, and they are not restless. They are quite literally at rest. Oops, sorry guys. How you doing up there? I'll give them a treat real quick. I always keep treats in my pocket, so literally if I'm not walking around the house, I put my hands in my pocket. Jazz will just start watching and waiting. It's like, oh, sorry, I just had my hands in my pocket. Whoops. Now he has to debate. He didn't quite get it, and it fell to the ground. He's debating whether or not he's going to get out of his little perch and grab it. I'm going to pick it up for him real quick. There you go. Okay. So here we go. Next question. Focus your attention to your screen. Ready? Oh, I guess I should show you the heart boxes wrapped up. Ready, set, go. Okay, so you're looking for, I see a couple of people have just joined us. So if you're wanting to know what we're doing, you're looking for the duplicate image on both sides of the screen. Looking for the duplicate image on both sides of the screen. Tweet with 4. I love it. Well described, Aiden. So yes, it is the tweet with 4 is the duplicated image. So once again, for whoever just joined us, we don't know if you're watching unless you engage in the chat, so you're welcome to do that. If you're not able to be in the chat, feel free to send me text. Okay, we've got 3 more. Here we go. 3 more. Ready, set, go. You're looking for the duplicate image. Which image is duplicated between the 2 images? Aiden's won the last couple of rounds. Anybody going to dethrone Aiden on this one? Oh, Aiden got it again. Lollipop. Yes, the lollipop is the duplicate. So I'm going to go ahead and say that Aiden is really good at this game. I'm going to say maybe if you're not as good as Aiden at this game, maybe it's because you have a delayed internet. It's very possible his internet's faster and he's seeing it before everybody else. But let's be honest. The reality of it is probably Aiden is just really good at this game. Good observation skills. You can use this as a... I remember in science class, I had a teacher that would have us play games like this where he said it was important for us to be able to make observations and judgments quickly from watching a science experiment happen. So we would do activities like this where we would have to spot all of the differences. Whereas in this one, we're having to spot the duplicates. Okay, Aiden is saying he has a delayed internet. So he's suggesting maybe you guys aren't very good at this game. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Yeah, it's true. It's true. It's just because he's good at this game. So here we go. Which one is the duplicate? Which one is the duplicate? Shoe. Well done. Yes, it is the shoe. The shoe is the duplicate on this one. Oh, I guess, sorry, I've been saying we have less than we have left. We've got 2 more. 2 more. Second to last one. Oh, there's a lot of options on this one. We might rush through the next couple rounds because one of the hazards of doing this program live is that there's no breaks. And unfortunately, I kind of need to use the restroom. So I'm going to try to wrap us up here in the next 10 minutes so I don't have to struggle through the entirety of the program. Can you guys find the duplicate? Chocolate strawberry. Well done. That is a lot of things cluttered on there, but yes, you were able to find the chocolate strawberry. So, one of the things that we will do is I'll when I post this again, so this isn't for people that are watching live now, but we usually have about 30 people that view this program afterwards. We've been averaging 40 to 50 people watching this show, but not everybody's watching it live. So I'll disengage the chat and you guys will have to try to race against when I say people got the answer right and see if you could beat them. In there. So good job, Aiden, with the chocolate strawberry. Last and final question. Here we go. Ready, set, go. But I guess that's the circling of the chocolate strawberry. Last one. Here we go. Oh, I forgot. I've been my wireless keyboard disconnected, so I've had to have been reaching over here. So I was pressing the wrong keyboard. Here we go. Ready. Final time. Ready, set, go. Okay, which one is the duplicate? Which one is the duplicate? So I'm getting, yeah, there we go. Aiden, good job. Bow and arrow. So I'm going to go ahead and declare Aiden the winner for us that are playing live because that was pretty great. You got quite a few of those answers first, but everybody that's playing on the computer got the answers correctly. But then there's the other 4 people that are not putting in answers. And if you don't answer, you can't win. So sorry about that. But I'm going to circle back really quick. So yes, it was the bow and arrow. Circle back between our 2 holidays that are coming up. And neither holiday is particularly a Christian holiday, right? But it's one of the I don't want to say areas of conflict, but one of the things that is an issue is that we celebrate all sorts of holidays in our communities with different people, with different backgrounds and different histories. And some people would say that there's conflict celebrating Chinese New Year, right? Because a lot of the Chinese holidays involves praying to deities, right? Ancestral worship, right? And we as Christians believe there's only one true God. We only worship one God. So there would be a conflict between ancestry worship. And there's a very, very strong Chinese American church here in the United States. And a lot of those people are navigating the conflict of they have family back home that celebrate Chinese New Year. And there is the concept of worshiping your ancestors. And they are struggling. How do they reconcile celebrating Chinese New Year with their family, but also worshiping one true God in Jesus Christ, right? So the way that they reconcile it is they basically share that when we celebrate Chinese New Year, we are observing family traditions, but they're not actually worshiping, right? So we as Christians, we can say, hey, we are just celebrating a Chinese tradition alongside our friends that celebrate Chinese New Year. So it's not saying we're not worshiping something else. We're not putting an idol before God. We are just celebrating. And a couple of things that we can celebrate as Christians at Chinese New Year is honoring family, right? One of the major traditions of Chinese New Year is the ancestral worship, right? You worship your past family that you believe is reincarnated in different ways. We as Christians don't believe that, but we can still honor our ancestors, right? And respect those that came before us, right? And another thing that is really popular at Chinese New Year is the tradition of reconciliation and seeking reconciliation. So we as Christians know that through Jesus Christ, we receive reconciliation to God. And I know reconciliation is a really big word, but essentially the meaning of reconciliation is kind of to be made right, right? So if you have a relationship with someone and you have a conflict and you're kind of split, right? You're not in agreement. To seek reconciliation means you come together, you ask for forgiveness, or if, let's be honest, sometimes it can be just as difficult to forgive someone that's hurt us as it is to seek forgiveness for somebody else that we've hurt, right? So make sure that we seek reconciliation in relationships. So if there's somebody that we're having conflict with, Chinese New Year is a time where we can say, hey, this is something that Chinese tradition says we should be doing at this time of year. But the reality of it is, as Christians, we should be doing it all the time, right? And as Christians, we actually have that practice built into communion, right? We say if you're at conflict with someone during communion, that is a time for us to seek forgiveness, seek reconciliation, right? But overarchingly, the reason we look for that is because through what Jesus did for us, we've received reconciliation with God. And the reason we needed reconciliation between us and God is because we have lived lives where we've sinned, right? So we know, if we're honest with ourselves, we all know that we've made mistakes, that we've done things that are wrong, that would not be considered right in the eyes of God. So when we seek reconciliation with God, it means we're going to God asking for forgiveness. And in Christ, we receive forgiveness, right? So as people who might not necessarily celebrate traditionally what Chinese New Year means, right? We're obviously not celebrating warning off the Nian monster that came and attacked our territories, right? If you guys have ever seen the traditional lion dance, right? If you've seen the really long train with the lion's head on the front and kind of like a body of a dragon of people dancing, that is all trying to scare away this monster, right? So we're not celebrating that. That's our tradition, but we're not praising God and thanking him for being, for warding off that evil, right? But we do celebrate as Christians Jesus and what he did for us for forgiveness of sins, right? That is that is our sin that has been conquered through Jesus Christ and what he did for us on the cross, right? So guys, have an awesome Chinese New Year. You can celebrate, but also use it as a time to remember what Christ did for us. And it's okay to go out and, whatever your family wants to do for Chinese New Year, you don't need to worry about saying like, oh, Jesus is mad that I'm celebrating Chinese New Year, right? You just need to make sure that in our celebrations, we're not putting the celebration before Jesus Christ, right? So that's kind of, if you look back in the story of Exodus and the golden calf, right? That is the story of the people of Israel putting something else and worshiping it instead of God. So you can celebrate Chinese New Year, but you can't necessarily partake in some of the worship that traditionally would be involved at Chinese New Year. So that's just a little lesson from where that came from. And the next holiday we have is Valentine's Day. So I know Valentine's Day to many is just a made-up Hallmark holiday where people are obligated to buy cards, and in school you send out notes, and it's a fun tradition, right? And there's a lot of pressure involved. But I want you guys to know it's important for us to not get too caught up in what Valentine's Day is. And it's just really Valentine's Day. I think most people recognize that it's not really a holiday. It's just a day where we are reminded to intentionally celebrate the people that we care about and the people that we love, right? So as Christians, I think we should, one, kind of have a mentality of we should always remember to celebrate and not necessarily give people gifts, but give people reminders that we care about them. So on that note, one of the cool things that our church is going to be doing for the season of Lent, and basically Lent is the time period leading up to Easter. So it starts after Ash Wednesday, which is this upcoming Wednesday. Season of Lent, our church is going to be doing a kindness challenge. So kind of our church isn't doing it in honor of Valentine's Day, but a reminder to us all amidst Valentine's Day to go out and be kind and to show kindness, not just to the people that we love, but also to the people that sometimes can be challenging to love, right? And you guys have heard me say this many times before, is that frequently the people that are the hardest to love are the ones that need to know that they're loved the most. So I don't know if you have somebody out in your world that needs to know that they are loved or cared for. I challenge you guys to go out and in the season of Lent, go out and try to spread some kindness into their world, whether that's through a kind gesture, whether that's through a note, whether that's through showing appreciation, whatever and however that might be. I just want to challenge you guys to go out and show God's love to people that need to know that they're cared for and loved. Because one of the things that often goes hand in hand with Valentine's Day is lots of people are feeling lonely and forgotten, or people that have lost loved ones or people that they care about. So it can be a cool opportunity for those of you that don't necessarily have a loved one of your own to go out and encourage others that might be hurting and in pain in this season. So those are just some simple insights to some of the experiences I had growing up for Chinese New Year, but then also something that you can do practically leading up to Easter, right? Because at Easter, we all remember the sacrifice that Jesus made for us. But also it's something that we can do is go out and be kind to people, because our natural tendency is to make sure we get everything that we want, but to go out into the world and seek the needs of others and how we can serve others. They're going to find out that they're seen and loved by God as well through the way that we make them feel seen and loved. So once again, happy Valentine's Day. Happy Chinese New Year. Have a great weekend. I love you guys. I miss you guys. I hope to see you soon. Going to try to shoot out the camera, and then we'll call it a day. Oh, that was close. Not quite. Oh, I hit the same arrow again. Oh, just a little bit below. Oh, look. I kind of covered the camera. You can still see Jazz, but you can't see me. I'll see if I can't. Nope. Oh, it's right there. I think I'm out. Didn't quite get it. I hit two that can be very plainly seen on the camera screen. But have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Hope to see you guys all next week. Love you, miss you. Hope to see you soon. Bye.